steering wheel. Lots of steering wheel here. Give me steering wheel. Hey, steering wheel. Somebody tell him to give it to him. Come on. Whoa.
Your leg, my please. Your leg hip.
How the f*** that's possible?
I'm driving like a grandma. Get that, Ralph? Did you hear me? From the radio. Ralph, acknowledge. Now, come on, close him down and kill him. We've got a lunatic on the track down that interstate.
Hello and welcome back inside the Park for May for podcast number 873. This is Todd.
No, Todd, not now.
He's from Missouri, where they're all known to be killers of innocent men, women, and children.
What are you going to do? You know why I've asked you here.
You must convince the villagers that I'm harmless.
That's exactly what I need you to do tonight for your kind consideration. I am back. We're going to cover some Formula One news. But of course, before I cover Formula One news, I have to introduce my guest. You know what that means? I have to go all the way to the right coast of our nation's capital, nestled in the loving embrace of our nation's capital, right there in Maryland. Sorry, Ravens. And, you gotta love her. You love her. You know who it is, the lovely, the redoubtable. Grace, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, Todd. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Doing well. You sound like you're a little under the weather, Grace, but I appreciate your soldiering on. You got to play hurt.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine. It's just I'm pretty sure one of the small, under the age of 5 snot machines that I was hanging out with all weekend in my family probably gave me something.
Yeah, that happens.
Because they're super cute, super fun, and super germy.
Yeah, when we first got on the call here, I was convinced that you and your husband were yelling and screaming at the Ravens losing to the Chiefs, and you were, apoplectic about it. But this is a much better reason.
Yeah, I mean, both those games deserve some amount of yelling. I think whatever team you were for, there was a lot going on there. But no.
Well, Flip's a Ravens fan, right?
That is correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. And I was hoping it would be Detroit winning, and then we can make it all small market Midwest Super Bowl, which the big networks hate it.
Well,
when it's small market Midwest.
I also liked it being, cats and birds.
Yeah, right. Cats and birds is always a good combination.
Now it's just the battle of fonts. Like, well, that's not very fun, right? Like cats and birds was more fun.
And speaking of that, my daughter and I were going back and forth watching the Ravens game. At first, we thought we liked it, but then we're pretty convinced that the font they use for the numbers on their jersey, that's not good. It doesn't match the name font,
Oh, it doesn't. That's true. But I don't know. I don't know. I watch basketball, so there's like a whole myriad of like what? Yeah.
What?
So.
Yeah.
Has these colors, and now they when they did the in the mid-season tournament, like everybody repainted their floor. Like, calm down, people. There's too much going on here, and I don't know. Like, it's too much. I'm too distracted now.
Well, having suffered through decades as a suffering Chiefs fan, I'm elated. But my friend Robin and Dan, they're going to be out in Vegas. They're big 49ers fans. They'll have all kinds of haterade for me, Grace.
Well,
so it's not going to be.
It's part of the fun.
It is part of the fun.
I mean, I'm clearly been in the like I'm just here for Usher. Like I hope Usher wins. Like that's all I got.
Yeah, right. That's exciting. Hey, also, Grace, you'll be happy to know I did catch up on the season finale of Hell's Kitchen.
I haven't watched yet.
You haven't watched it? Oh, I can't say anything then.
I know.
Oh, man.
I don't know. The long off-season saga. Our TiVo died, which then means we can only watch things on streaming. And I was like, I just have been too lazy to like figure out if we have access to the Fox app. And of course, everything's under Flip's name. So it's like if I go to watch it and he's not, I'm like, I don't know when I watch it. It's easier when we just had the TiVo, right? It's just like a DVR. I'm like, oh, there it is. I'm 4 episodes behind. I'll just sit here and watch them. But
oh boy,
so I am behind by like what, 2 episodes, 3 episodes.
Oh wow,
So they did the season finale.
Yeah. 2 episode double header. Yeah.
Man.
Everybody's like, is this an F1 podcast? We're talking about football.
It's the off season.
Hell's Kitchen. I know.
I don't know. I'll get caught up. I'll get caught up for next week. I promise.
I
I'll
know.
watch.
Everybody's like, get to the show.
This is
This
the
is
show.
the show,
Well,
man.
I have to get caught up because now, last chef standing or whatever Gordon Ramsay's other show
Next
is.
level. Yeah.
Next Level Chef. That's it. Premiered
Yeah.
last night since Fox doesn't have the Super Bowl. So now I'm like,
Right.
I hate it. And I already haven't watched the WRC race. I'm like, I hate this part. Like, I just start like all the like I'm behind just sort of like snowballs. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm behind.
Oh, see? There you go.
Wah, wah.
Well, you won't believe how this one ends.
Oh, all right. Now,
Yeah.
who needs work? Whatever.
Yeah, right.
They won't know I'm just like gone for 3 hours.
That's right. So I've switched. Now I've watched the first 2 episodes of Masters of the Air.
Oh, I haven't watched that.
Yeah. Okay. Should we
I
talk
don't
about
know.
some
I
Formula
got
One?
nothing. Sure.
Yeah, no, yeah. I wouldn't expect you to if you haven't seen it.
No.
How would you know?
No, but I'm sure, I'll add it to the list of yet another show I can be behind on.
Perfect.
It's good.
Perfect.
I'm good
It's
at
good.
that.
It's good. Let's talk some Formula One, shall we?
Sure.
That's typically what we do on this
I blame
podcast.
Formula One, actually. I blame Formula One.
Bit
I
of a
blame
vacuum.
MotoGP. Too many races. I feel like I say this every week,
Yeah.
but I can't live this life and watch other things and other sports and pay attention.
I know.
Too many races.
I know.
I don't
It's a lot
even
of
go
racing.
anywhere. I just stay in my house and it feels like too much.
Even if we did and were heavily invested in NASCAR, we wouldn't have time to watch it.
Well, no. No,
You know?
I already have like 7 sports leagues I'm watching.
I know. I get that, Formula One, and then you try to squeeze in MotoGP. I'd love to get the WRC app and watch WRC. It's doing time.
Well, you have to watch it on the Red Bull app.
Yeah, there you go.
They don't have their own app, which is how I always find out about these random Red Bull sports that I share with people because I'm like, oh, is the rally like the last month? I'm like, is it Monaco yet? Is it Monaco yet? Is it Monaco yet? No. Okay, what is this? Soapbox racing. I'll watch that.
Yeah, right. Ooh, soapbox race. I'm all over it. Yeah, I think
Crazy
Terry
mountain bike
Newell
people.
won Monaco this past weekend.
So there you go.
Speaking of winning races, it's a tough race. The racing season officially got underway here in the United States of America with the Rolex 24 from Daytona, with our very own Paul, the international Charsley, as the sporting manager for the Heart of Racing Aston Martin number 23 and number 27 cars, GTD Pro and GTD. Tough weekend for Paul. Very tough weekend. They hung in there. They persevered. They managed to claw their way back to 4th place in GTD Pro. So congratulations on them. And a big congratulations to the captain, the class act that is Roger Penske and Tim Cindric, for Penske winning, which is awesome. I'm excited about that. Porsche coming back from decades of not winning. They're great to see Porsche. It's great to see that mark back on top. And great to see Penske doing well. And if for any other reason, because here in the States on the NBC, and it's not NBC's fault, it's just that the series is so heavily sponsored and supported by General Motors and Cadillac and all of that and Corvette, that the entire show turns into like one long General Motors commercial, little featurettes they do on the Corvette and the new Corvette. Talk about the new hybrid Porsche. Let's talk about that. No, we're going to talk about the Cadillac. Oh, okay. Talk about the new Ford GT Mustangs. No, we're going to talk about the Corvette. No.
We have no Corvette complaints in this house. Those commercials are fine.
Oh, it's a new Corvette's a cool car. Don't get me wrong, but you can only take so much when it's. They had that so far rammed up our backside you could taste it.
You need a little Flex Seal to break it up the monotony for you.
You do.
A little mother's polish every now and again.
Yeah, a little mother's polish brought to you by Mother's Polish. So there's that. So sorry about that, but Paul won that race last year. Yeah. 4th place this year. Not all is lost. It's okay. P4, decent start to the season. Could have been worse given the issues that they had. Just a little shout out to the entire team, the perseverance. Nay, Grace, the stick-to-itiveness.
There you go. I mean, I think that is how I would describe Paul.
It is how he's a sticky kind of guy.
Yes.
You know? So, and he was gracious enough to text me when I was bugging him. He's on the pit wall trying to manage strategy. And I'm like,
trying to do his job.
You like the tires?
Shut up, man.
Have you tried the hot dogs in the cafeteria? He's like, oh, dude, I'm trying to salvage a race here. And you're like, hey, that Porsche is a pretty color red. That's
I mean, he could also just mute everybody, which also would have solved that problem.
But he's trying to be gracious with me. He's trying to be my friend, I pay him well to be my friend, and so I expect him to answer when I text
That
him.
would have been great. See, right now I'm in the middle of this thing called a race, and I'm pretty sure you're watching it, so could you stop texting me?
I know. Yeah. And then I get delusions of grandeur, like I'm actually helping him. Like when I'm watching a close up of a pit stop and I see a bobbled something here, or I see something going on. I say, ooh, the Lambo looks like the rear, diffuser is broken, man. And he's like, as if the team didn't have anybody watching any of that,
They have their own Aunt Davidson watching the feed.
Yeah, they do,
But
and they're all over it.
This.
And here I am with delusions of grandeur, thinking I'm like Paul's fifth pit crew guy. It's terrible.
They should add you to the team. You can be like a long distance spotter or something. They should just bring you on.
Right. Exactly. I'd be telling him how the LMPs are doing, and he's like, I don't give a damn.
I don't care.
Right.
Get out of my way. That's great. That's not my class.
Not my class, man. Yeah, he's a patient man, that Paul, to put up with me.
Sure.
Let's talk about some Formula One news. Big news this week, folks, regarding Lando and Leclerc. Lando Norris and Charles Leclerc have inked new multi-year contract extensions with rumors that both deals should see them through the 2026 season. They didn't officially say that from the teams, but that is the rumors. The inevitable questions that always come with any contract deal is that you get people saying, okay, well, hey, the good driver did a new deal. Have they made the right choice? So there's a lot of, chin stroking and hand wringing over whether they made the right choice. One could argue that Leclerc and Lando are at teams not fighting for wins, but as there's not a lot of room at Red Bull or Mercedes, what were their options, right?
That's always the case, right? Like there's only 10 teams.
Yeah, it's like musical chairs. So the one thing I've learned about F1 after watching all these years is it's actually true in our own lives as well, is that it all comes down to timing. It's just
absolutely.
about timing. And that's not just a racing thing. That's everything. My life's been, a meteoric rise to mediocrity because I keep missing timing. I didn't read this right. I didn't take advantage of that when I should have. And then I was a jerk and turned that down, not knowing that would have been the real claim to fame. But anyway, that's the story of my life, lessons learned. But given that old axiom,
so we should just call you Daniel Ricciardo from now on, then.
Pretty much, yeah. I've led my life like a Daniel Ricciardo episode. It's making the wrong move at the wrong time, and then staying too long when I should have moved, zigging when I should have zagged. Back.
I think you're actually Fernando Alonso, and you're just waiting for your moment. You're waiting for your Aston Martin.
I'm looking for my Lawrence Stroll right now.
There you go.
All right.
There you go.
So call me, Larry.
We're going to finish you out on an upswing.
There you go. Yep. So given that old axiom, then it would be dull of us to not consider that the driver management companies that manage these drivers, they are trying to align their contracts with the most flexibility and align their contracts with the top teams and their contracts. It's all a game of chess, right? And they want their drivers to be available when the dominant teams might be going through renewals as well. They don't want to lock them out, or they at least want exit clauses in their contracts that they could get out, right?
Yeah.
It's all part of it. Keeping yourself available for the top teams, I should think, is paramount for any management company.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're seeing it now both in Formula One, where we've had no driver movement, and in MotoGP, where everybody's moved.
Everybody, yeah, right.
Right, because Morbidelli's the only one that's on an off season, is on an off cycle contract. So it's like now that's exactly what happens, because it's great if if George's contract is up, but nobody else has any space. Well, then I guess I have to sign again with Mercedes or something like that. So you're right. There has to be a place to go, and it has to be, like a swap. I mean, I think that they make it sound like Zach Brown makes it sound like, well, when Carlos said he wanted to go to Ferrari, we just picked up Ricciardo, no problem, right? Like that there was like this seamless thing. I'm sure it was not that seamless. There was a lot of nights and phone calls or sending faxes or whatever they do to make that kind of look that way, and to just like one was leaving and one was coming in. Yeah,
and apart from timing, obviously there's more to that. Good grief, that's just one aspect. You have to also consider the work environment they're in, the driver's personality, the team's personality, a host of other factors, least of which is money. Right. It all plays a part in these programs, and the driver management teams are supposed to be taking all of that into account. Right.
Right.
So, let's be honest, a 3 to 4 year deal at Ferrari for $20 million or rumored $23 million a year, even if they aren't winning titles, that's a pretty good living for Charles.
Not too bad.
Right?
Not too bad.
And while you want to win titles, I'm sure Charles does, living on $20 million a year ain't half bad either. Right.
Right.
So you got to wonder, every driver on that grid is there because they ultimately, at the end of the day, they've worked their tail off since they were 5 years old. They want to win a world championship. Every single one of them do, but not every single one of them will. And the reality of that is this is their job, right? And so because it's their job, this is what they're going to try to maximize on. So whether Ferrari's winning or not, Charles getting a 4-year deal at $20 million with or $23 million a year with an escape clause is a pretty good deal, right?
Right.
You could argue that Lando should have gone for Carlos's seat at Ferrari because he has not been extended yet, or that maybe he should have waited for Mercedes or even tried to dislodge Checo from Red Bull. But those options are always difficult to manage when it's the choice, when the choice is in the hands of the other teams, not completely yours. Right. And the best you can do is to have your camp fish around to other teams, just testing waters, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure that happened. We heard rumors before Lewis had re-inked his deal that, there was some conversations being had up and down the paddock. Now, that's rumors, but that's what we hear. So it's a complex.
You're just scooting around.
Yeah, you're just scooting around, woo. And as I mentioned, Carlos Sainz remains unsigned or unextended by this time recording the podcast. But it'll happen the day
tomorrow
after we record. Yeah,
right.
Always. But chances are he will get a deal with Ferrari. Yeah. And to be honest, would Lando like that option? To be honest with you, I'm not sure he would. When you consider Alonso, Vettel, and even Leclerc all have found the Italian team on the back foot. Right.
I don't know why you would leave McLaren for that.
Right. That's what I'm asking. Do you know what I mean? Really think Lando would leave the trajectory he's had on increasing more and more points every year and the trajectory that McLaren seems to be showing? Yeah. Do you feel that he would even find that Ferrari potential enticing over McLaren?
To start over? No, that's like moving. I hate moving, right? Nobody wants to have to build furniture and figure no, never. So you always want to live with the option you have as long as you can before you move somewhere else, because you would be starting from scratch with this team. And I think especially in Formula One, where there's, no team is ever just like the quarterback or the point guard, right? Like it's the whole team. But especially in racing, man, there's so many personalities, especially at Ferrari. It's such a different environment than McLaren. I don't know why. Unless, like Carlos Sainz, you had always dreamed of, or, Vettel or something like that, that you'd always wanted to be at Ferrari. That would be that might be a motivator. But Lando's never been like, I had, Michael Schumacher's poster on my wall. I always wanted to be at Ferrari. So why would you go to Ferrari? Because your chances of winning a championship with Ferrari is is clearly not a done deal. And like you said, like McLaren at least is kind of like going to get close to that. He may never win one with McLaren either.
Right.
But I wouldn't make that switch. It's just not worth it. It's
I don't
not
think so
enough
either.
of a done deal.
You'd be coming in. Charles is the guy, right?
Yeah.
You've got that element to deal with. Whereas right now, arguably, no offense to Oscar fans, but Lando's kind of the guy.
It might change.
McLaren.
I mean,
it
right?
could change. You don't know.
That's right.
I would say if anybody's got a chance of knocking Lando's feet off, Oscar's doing a pretty good job.
For sure.
For Charles, if it's not Red Bull, I'm not sure what other option would have been better for a potential win other than Mercedes, and there's no room there. So there's a part of me that wonders, though, if Carlos might not be interested in replacing Checo.
I want Carlos to come back to McLaren.
You got a full house there, though.
It's fine.
You want Oscar out, Carlos in,
just for a moment.
Carlando.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, what I really want is Carlos and Fernando at a team, but that seems not likely to happen. But that's the actual dream. Maybe they should get rid of Lance Stroll, bring on Carlos, and have Alonso and Carlos. That's what I really want.
They're missing it. They're totally missing it.
That's the dream.
I think I even had a tweet or Instagram post where I had a picture of both of them standing there, and I said, if Lawrence was on top of his marketing game, he would give his son a job somewhere else in the company, and he'd bring Carlos in, and they would go to market as the Spanish Armada.
Absolutely. And then you'd have Alonso, the grizzled veteran, and and then Carlos would be the heir
plucky upstart.
Yeah, although I guess that's Alonso, right? Young driver Alonso.
Yeah.
I think that would be great. That's what I would really want if I could just make teams however
I'd make that choice in a heartbeat over Lance. Sorry, Lance. I'm no offense, but if you could get Carlos, just marketing appeal alone and merch and stuff.
Yeah,
would
those
be
two
awesome.
hanging out together and eating snacks, doing all those unboxed videos together. It would be great. I'd love it.
Right. So I think Charles ended up, I think, where legitimately it's best for him timing wise. I think Lando did. This is coming from a guy who's missed timing his whole life, but I think that's the logical choice for both of them. It's interesting though, Grace, when Lando was asked about, Ray did the deal with McLaren, and why didn't you think about Red Bull? Checo's, seat is tenuous, right? And so they asked him about that. And here's what he had to say, and this created a big dust up in social media and people commenting, a kerfuffle, if you will. Yes, in social media, a lot of quibble on social media about this. Here's what he said, quote, "I think it's a longer discussion than just saying that he was scared. Is Max one of the best drivers ever in Formula One? Absolutely. I think he's proved that enough. He's in a team which he's very comfortable in. A lot of things are built around him. So for anyone, even the Max of a few years ago, to go in against Max of now is extremely difficult. So I don't think it's a question of, are you scared or not scared? I don't think I'd ever be scared of going up against anyone. But even if you enter a team, are you in a position to challenge someone straight away? And are you comfortable to do that? And I think it's a no for any driver. It takes time to adapt. It takes time to get into place. And if you want to go against the best driver in the world, it's not the best thing to do. It's not a smart move to do. But I would love to race against Max. I've enjoyed some of our battles that we've had, and I'm looking for even more forward to the battles that we're going to have this year," end quote. Now, seems pretty straightforward to me.
I think the whole quote seems more straightforward, but what gets carried is a much shorter quote, which makes him just sound like he doesn't have the dog, if you will, right? He's not he's not cut out to be a Formula One driver.
Right.
But if you read the whole like paragraph, like you just read it in context, it makes a lot more sense. Imagine that.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to read it, because Max admits he's not as good as Max, or a lot of these paraphrasing and taken out of context for clickbait, understandably, but not understandably, but sadly. Yes. There's all this hand wringing over his comments that he's admitting he's not as good as Max, or that he's scared of teaming with Max. I don't see that at all. I think it's just a measured response from a guy who likes being on the top at a competitive team instead of trying to go to Red Bull, where Max has been their main man for 8, 9, 10 years now.
Notoriously.
Yes.
Man. The whole team, like in a way that like Ferrari wasn't wrapped around Michael Schumacher, right? Like notoriously Red Bull is wrapped around Max Verstappen.
Absolutely. And has been for going on a decade.
Yeah.
And it just so happens, though, that he's at his absolute peak, right?
Right.
So knocking his feet off the desk would be very, very hard.
Yeah.
He'd have a better chance, I think, in knocking Lewis's or Charles's feet off the desk than Max's at this point. In my mind, going into a team when a world champ is at the top is a hard ask, such as Valtteri proved, or Barrichello proved, or Weber proved, right?
Right.
That's difficult to do when the team is 100% behind the top driver and the top driver's on top of his game. That's a tough deal. Going to a team when performance from the champ may be waning a little bit is a better chance, I think, of Kimi or Vettel at Ferrari. Right.
Right.
You've got a better chance of going in there and putting your foot on the neck of the team when it's that sort of situation. I agree with Lando, and I think McLaren is a good move, but ultimately, long run, perhaps Mercedes would even be a better move given the big changes coming in 2026. And there again, that's down to his driver management team to ensure that he would be available post 2026 for Mercedes if they're interested, right?
Yep.
That would be now, having said that, if I had to pick one driver, and I'm curious what you think, Grace, if you had to pick one driver from Max's generation, I'm not talking about Alonso or Lewis.
Right.
They're the older generation. I'm talking about Max's generation. If you had to pick one driver from Max's generation that actually you think could pair well with Max at Red Bull, who do you think it would be? I kind of feel like it probably would be Lando, given his personality and he gets along so well with Max. But what do you think? George, Carlos, Alex, Pierre?
I wonder what it would be like for Alex the second time around.
Yeah, good point. Yeah. Now that Alex has got the bit between his teeth, right?
And I think he's, people ask him. I think that's always the other thing with these quotes when they come up, like somebody asked him the question. It's always posed like he was just like, oh, all these journalists are here. I'm going to talk about Red Bull and Max Verstappen. No, somebody asked him a question and he answered the question, but the question that was asked didn't get included in the article. So it just sounds like this weird opining on like Max and Red Bull. Somebody asked him the question, but somebody asked this of Alex a lot. Like, what have you learned? How have you developed at Williams? What would it be like at Red Bull? I think that's what I would want to see. I don't know that directly answers your question of who would be the best match, but I think that's what I'd want to see. I'd want to see Alex and Max together.
Yeah, it's a good shout. I like that combination too.
But I think
because it would be a totally different Alex coming back.
Yes, in a way that I don't think Pierre Gasly would be. I don't know that he rises to that level in the way that Alex does. To go back
Pierre
to Red Bull,
would get confrontational. I think.
Well, that might be a different kind of fun.
Well, it might be. Yeah, I think Alex would be good. I think Lando. I think George would go hammer and tongs with it. Just his personality strikes me as that.
Yeah.
He's
no bars. So
yeah.
But I think the other thing too is I think we have to keep in mind, right? It's almost the Super Bowl, and the saying is always, wins isn't a quarterback stat. I think it's the same thing in racing, and especially in Formula One, right? Wins aren't a Formula One driver stat. It takes so much to win a race. It takes so many people, the rules to be a certain way. Like, is Lando a great driver who to this date hasn't won a race? Yes. And is that common? Yes. And,
right.
You just have that kind of dominance in Formula One. So I don't think you can ever use race wins as a like, Lando's not as good as Max because he hasn't won as many races. You have to like dig in those analytics a little deeper and think about where the teams are. And much like with like Braun GP, they won, but I always joke that there's an asterisk next to Jenson Button's World Championship because of where the other teams were at that same time. Would Braun have won in other situations? Probably not. But,
yeah, right.
I mean, he still has it, and, you know, nobody's taking that away from him. But we watched it. We were there, and, you know, it's not quite the same if it was a season in either direction.
Oh, hey, that reminds me. On Twitter, hold on. I'll pull it up.
Okay.
I'll pull it up so I get the name right. Dave.
All right, Dave.
Dave on Twitter was asking me
just the one Dave.
Yeah, just Dave. You know,
Okay.
it's all night, all Dave.
Okay.
Dave on Twitter
Yeah.
was asking me about my comment about Haas's boss Komatsu being involved in the F-Duct design with Renault, and he was saying that was McLaren's, not Renault's. And I said, yeah, but you know, he worked on Renault's, and so he was just asking me to clarify. So if it was confusing for Dave, maybe I was confusing to the world. So the point was, and I reminded Dave that McLaren wasn't the only one with the F-Duct. Yes, they innovated the F-Duct, but the other teams copied that. And the other teams even modified versions of their own F-Duct. And Komatsu, I think, if memory serves correctly, may have been on that side of Renault helping develop that or modifying or whatever it was. But I think that's where his role was, or some of the things that he did when he was at Renault. And so, you know, they all had the F-Duct, and then it was banned. Yes.
Right.
And that begat the gold-plated, everyone loves it DTS thing. That god awful thing. So anyway, that's just to clarify there. Sorry about that, Dave.
Good idea. I
was
think
being ambiguous.
You know, if only you fix things in post, we wouldn't have these problems.
You know what I was? I was being duplicitous, Grace.
Oh, way to go. 2 weeks later, duplicitous. Nice job. Yeah. The old memory going there. No, you know, I was thinking that, you know, with Komatsu coming from Renault and now at Haas, like, first of all, that's a book I want to read. Second of all, no wonder he survived at Haas for so long. Like,
yeah,
he was at Renault. He's kind of, you know,
yeah,
he knows what he's getting into here.
Right.
So,
yeah, that team's been through a few things.
Just a couple. So, you know, I mean, maybe that speaks to why he is still at Haas and has taken on this new role at Haas. And maybe that's why he's got thick skin or something, right? Like he's been through the ringer a couple times. He's okay. Fine.
You know, if I was a bubbly young millennial aspiring writer who was trying to really get into F1 and do all that, writing a book about Renault's path through Formula One would be a good read. I'm just throwing that out there for some young, bubbly, effervescent millennial that has gotten into Formula One and Drive to Survive, and they kind of fancy themselves a writer. That would be a great read. So.
Be a good through line. I would be interested in that, right? Like,
yeah. Because you're young. It's going to take you a while to research that because it goes way back.
It does.
And it gets really exciting through Turbo Era, then into Crashgate, and then into Lotus and the comeback and the Malaysian corrupt business thing. And that's an interesting story. And then it gets back on the grid, and then Renault buys it, and they're going to, take a couple of years and get right back to the sharp end of the grid. They aren't. They throw the drivers out. They bring Ricardo in, chuck him out with the bathwater. Then they fire longtime Alan Permain, Otmar, that they just brought in a few minutes earlier. Then, it's just on and on and on. What a story that would be.
This is like the Hokey Pokey is what you made this sound like. Hokey Pokey, the story of Renault in Formula One. I think you've written this book, but you're right. I think it would actually be volumes. I don't think this could just be one book, right? Like it would have to be several volumes. Like, the Flavio years would be a whole volume, even though I think that was only like, 4 years or something.
Years. Yeah.
So I think that would be,
the Turbo years. The Flavio years. To the Nelson Piquet years.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. I'm just imagining that. So there you go.
I was right there with you. I'd read it.
Yeah, and if you go out and you write that book and you make $1 bajillion, I want 20%. It's my idea.
At least, yeah, Stefano Domenicali, when you steal that idea like you steal every other idea off this podcast, remember?
I know. Hey, nice segue, Grace, to the next story.
Thank you.
We're going to be talking about Liberty Media. Liberty Media. You know those cats, the people that own Formula One.
Yeah.
Yep.
I've heard of them.
Yep. Greg Popcorn Fart Maffei. That's who we're talking about.
They have a catchy jingle. I saw an interview once with a lady referred to them as by the insurance company, and they were like, and I don't remember now who it was. It was like Liberty Media.
Liberty. Is it Liberty Bibberty?
Yeah, exactly. Right. So that always stuck. That I was like, I never made that connection because I know them through Formula One. But I get it that if you were just like some journo just walking around, you had to interview this guy. That's totally what was sticking in your brain.
Yeah. They should like capitalize on Liberty Mutual and then have like Stefano and an emu, you know, like Liberty Mutual does, you know, Emu and Doug.
I would pay so much money to see that.
That would be good.
The Halloween race, here it comes.
That'd be good.
But
so,
yeah.
Liberty Media, just a little media organization over there, worth billions. John Malone, the man at the helm. Mm-hmm. Greg Maffei, the man at the helm of their Formula One investment. Stefano Domenicali, the man in charge of Formula One. So Liberty Media made the Forbes list of most valuable sports empires. Did you get that? Most valuable sports empires.
Yeah.
Liberty has made the list before, and the list is for individuals or entities that own several major U.S. sports franchises and European football clubs.
Yeah.
Liberty was number one at $18.22 billion. That's billion with a B. So they were number one. They were the most valuable sports empire at $18.22 billion. That's how big they were. Now, the Miami Grand Prix and Miami Dolphins owner, Stephen Ross, don't forget about him, Grace.
Yes.
He just tickled almost $7 billion. He's in at 16th on the list. He's right around there.
Okay.
Above him, though, is Fenway Sports Group. They own the Boston Red Sox, where you park your car, Grace. They also own the Pittsburgh Penguins.
Yay!
Yay, Grace's team. And they also own Liverpool Football Club.
In the UK. Affect. That's great.
Yeah. And the group's value also rose by a significant 25% to $12.95 billion to put them in third place. And they also, you ask, why do I mention that? Because they also happen to be a little bit involved with Formula One. They're involved with Arctos Partners, which has a small investment in Aston Martin.
There you go.
See how that ties together?
Comes together.
It's like Vanguard and BlackRock of F1 here. It all ties together. So now, speaking of Aston Martin, you can't forget, and I know you won't, the Bamford family, Grace. You know, you and I were just having dinner with them the other day.
Yeah, right. The Bamfords.
Yeah, you and I and the Bamfords, they're great friends of ours. You know, we're like this.
Super
the
tight.
Bamfords and I. You know, I sent them the Christmas card like I do every year. They're always inviting me over to watch football.
I always have to tell them, no, I'm so busy with all these sports. 44 starts. What do you want from me?
I don't have time to go out on your yacht, okay?
I don't.
All right? I'm a little busy.
People to see me like that.
No, I'm a little busy over here. So the Bamford family also made that list, and they own, are you ready for this? JCB. That's right, the big tractors they use in F1. That's who sponsors Aston Martin. So they're on the list.
The big tractors. How do we not have an unboxed video of Alonso riding around on a big tractor.
Wouldn't that be cool?
Yes.
Alonso on a JCB going around the track.
Absolutely. Why don't we have that? Why don't we have tractor races with him and Lance? That would be great.
It'd be perfect.
Missed opportunity, people.
Totally missed opportunity. So anyway, that is good for Liberty, good for F1 in general. That is that's a windfall profit from their perspective.
Yeah.
On this series. On one hand, I got to thinking about it. I needed to go look something up that I wrote. And I was thinking, on one hand, we've been creating content about Formula One for 17 years now, folks. And while some of you out there may say, this dork's been blathering on about F1 far too long, the actual upside of me doing so is that I have my own library of content that I can search over 17 years about certain topics. Like you would say, oh, what about the J dampers? I wrote about that. What about Crashgate? Well, I wrote about that back in 08,
your own little
09.
Formula One Wikipedia over there.
I am. And then I was thinking about Liberty Media, and I wrote several editorials about Liberty Media when they were interested in buying Formula One. And I did a little research, and if I can remember to do so, I'll put a link to my original article in this podcast post on our website that you can go read. I'm happy to say that I went back and looked at that article that I wrote about Liberty's interest in Formula One and buying F1 anyway. And I have to report that I was relatively spot on given their position on Forbes' list this week. So, it's all about content and content creation and not platforms. And the whole reason, if you go read that, I even quote John Malone and Greg Maffei in that article, but they were talking about the reasoning for doing so and moving away from just connected to cable and platforms delivery service, because that's what they used to be. Mm-hmm. And they were getting heavily into content creation because they felt that like ISPs like AT&T and, Spectrum and Charter and all that kind of stuff, that's a limited growth opportunity for them. They were reading the tea leaves correctly, thinking it was all about the content. Content is king, and delivery platform is like whatever, choose your one. And I think I even mentioned there with everything going to a la carte and platforms that you select, Paramount Plus, Peacock, all that sort of stuff. They were right. Of course they would be. I mean, this is their industry. They're smart people. But anyway, I'll post it if I can remember. I'll post a link to it. You can go back and read it. But anyway, good news. That's real money, Grace.
Just a few shekels to rub together. A few
shekels, yeah.
Just a bit, yeah. So.
Real coin.
That's right. Right on.
That's Paul Charsley kind of money right there.
Yeah. I'm for sure.
Yep. Let's see. What else? Oh, yeah. Haas. Remember them?
Yes.
Oh, no, it all went wrong.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good old Haas.
I'm pretty sure that was the exact phone call from Gene Haas.
It was. Well, they're not the only entity under new management these days. You can kick Haas around all you want, but they're not the only ones being managed by somebody else these days.
All right.
No, sirree, not the only one.
Get in there, Lewis.
That's right, Lewis Hamilton. You know him. You love him. Lewis Hamilton.
Lewis Hamilton. There's no stopping him.
There's no stopping him, Grace.
There's no stopping him.
No stopping him.
Lewis Hamilton.
Lewis Hamilton has parted ways with his management company called Copper and its Canadian-born boss, Penny Thau. I don't know how you pronounce the last
Switching
name.
to Craig Pollock, the other Canadian.
Oh. So a little backstory for you new to Formula One. Craig Pollock was Jacques Villeneuve's manager, who then went in with Jacques into BAR Honda F1, or BARF 1, they call it. And Craig Pollock.
Nobody calls it that but me.
Yeah, well, I do too, because it's great.
Because it's
BARF
great.
1, yeah.
BARF 1.
It's brilliant. And so Craig Pollock was Jacques' manager.
Yes.
And they met because Craig Pollock before that was a ski instructor.
So yeah, Lewis, Craig Pollock, I'm sure he's available.
Yes. Well, he's not far off. Listen to this. Copper was his management team for 2021 to 2023 and was focused on his Project 44, as well as pursuing ventures outside of racing, such as his charity Mission 44 and other things, the Apple TV documentary and the movie with Brad Pitt. All right. It's said that he's going to continue to work with Penny on the movie, as you would do. You know, you don't want to just go, okay, well, hell, I'm done with Penny. You're out of here, and give the middles to Brad Pitt. Probably not a good look, right?
Nope.
So you want to see that through. So you're going to string Penny along to get that project done, right? I would, right? I don't want to go in there and kick Brad Pitt in the groin, you know, on this deal, right?
Right.
So he's going to continue on that, but he's returned to his friend Mark Hines. Mark spelled with that really edgy and sexy C instead of a K.
Well, he wasn't there when this was decided, so.
That's right. Mark Hines from his F3 days. That's how long Lewis has known Mark. Hines is a former British touring car driver and the 1999 British Formula 3 champion. Hines struck up a friendship with Lewis Hamilton when Lewis was at Formula Renault and F3. And they've been buddies ever since. In 2015, Hines took a job focusing on building Project 44 for Lewis. That was set up by Hamilton the year earlier, as well as looking after Lewis's day-to-day activities at the races. That was back in 2015. Hines left Hamilton's employ at the start of 2021. He subsequently became Zhou Guanyu's management team, working with his longtime associate and former Manor Marussia colleague, Graham Loudon, who you'll all remember from Marussia days. The company that they own together, Equals Management, will continue to work with Zhou, though.
Okay.
While Mark works with Lewis.
So, Zhou, I don't know how to break this to you, but I'm going to be working for Lewis Hamilton. Good luck.
No, Joe, I'm not going to be able to make it to your party. I'm going to Lewis's.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Sorry.
Joe, you're, oh, really? You're stuck in customs? Oh, okay. All right. Well, I'll call you when I get to Lewis's house. I'll call you from there.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Ariana will be there. Yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. Lewis, he's downsizing. He's getting away from that big corporate conglomerate, those kind of people. And he's going back to Mark Hines, just old school. 2021 probably would have been good to have Mark Hines around back in 2021. I'm just saying.
I don't know. I just think who knew picking your number would have to be so like Mission 44 and Project 44. Like it sounds good. Like what if it would have been like Mission 73 doesn't have the same ring to it, you know? Pick your numbers carefully, kids.
Yeah, they may become your charity.
You never know. You never know where those numbers may take you.
You never
Choose
know.
wisely.
That's right. You could end up with, mission whatever your number is.
Yeah.
And if you didn't have a cool number, you'd probably end up with Mission Winnow.
Yeah, nobody knows. It's a mystery.
Nobody knows.
At least Mission 44, we know what they do. We have no idea, what Mission Winnow does. Nobody knows.
Right. So that's in the news.
It's interesting.
Yeah. It's kind of
Good
an
luck,
interesting
Joe.
move. Because he just inked that extension. That would have been under Penny.
I thought you were going to say that Joe was calling from between two barriers at Silverstone. I didn't know where you were going to go with that. So, you're stuck in the barriers?
I've fallen and I can't get up.
I can't help you right now. I'm going to Lewis's yacht. I will see you later.
Yeah, I'll call you from Lewis's plane.
Yeah. Good luck.
Yeah. So interesting. I'm wondering because his contract, it said in the article, with Copper Penny Thau ended in December 2023, but he got his contract extension before that. I'm thinking Penny got a big payday on that contract deal.
Well, I'm sure.
And now he's over with Mark Hines, and who knows if he'll want to get in it. You know what? Kudos to Mark for taking on a guy who could be on his last F1 contract,
right? Knowing
he's not going to get the upside of the big $40 million a year contract on the backside. Penny got all that money.
We don't know what Joe paid him.
That's true. Joe could be paying big money. Maybe Joe's state sponsored. Who knows?
Right. And so now he's like, I can do some charity work and work with Lewis Hamilton.
Right. Maybe my time in Formula One is really wearing on me, and I'd like to walk off in the sunset with Lewis on his other projects.
Right.
Could be. There you go. Oh boy, here's other big news this week. This is fun. Do you remember that plucky upstart team with the big brother team Red Bull? It was called Toro Rosso.
Yes.
Well, that team back in 2020 changed to Alpha Tauri. Alpha Tauri, led by Franz Tost, led that team. Alpha Tauri, the premium fashion brand of Red Bull's brand. That team is now under new management as well. It's not just Haas.
Oh no, it all went wrong.
It's under new management now, and it's got a brand new name. Grace, are you ready for the new name? Here it is.
I can't wait to
Ladies
see her
and
just
gentlemen,
roll right off your tongue.
It just rolls right off your tongue. The new name, Alpha Tauri, is the catchy name is this: Visa Cash App Red Bull Formula One team. Huh? Visa Cash App RB Formula One team.
Yeah.
You know I'm going to end up just calling that V-Carb for short.
I like V-Carb.
V-Carb makes more sense to me for some reason.
We thought the logo looked like Arby's logo.
It did.
And so then it was like we called them Arby's for a while. And then I was like, I'm just going to call them Toro Rosso. Like, I'm never going to be able to remember Visa Cash App, Red Bull, Formula One. Like, that is, like, I have a hard
Visa
enough
Cash
time
App.
all these years later still just not calling them McLaren Mercedes, right? Like,
Yeah,
I mean,
you know
they
it's
are
hard to call
technically
them
McLaren Mercedes,
Vodafone
right? Like,
McLaren Mercedes.
so I'm like, I'm never going to get, Visa Cash App, Red Bull, Formula
I
One.
know.
So then I was like,
I know.
I'm just going to call them Toro Rosso. I'm just going to call
It's
them
like-
Minardi.
It's like
So-
Petronas AMG Mercedes or AMG Petronas Mercedes.
Right, that's
You know,
always
it's
a
just
joke that Lewis
Mercedes.
never gets them in the right order, right? And so
Yeah.
I think I'm going to call him Minarbi
Minardi.
because they're Minardi and Arby's together would be Minarbi. So
We have the meat.
that's right. That was always, like, okay, Minarbi, because that at least is catchy and I'll remember that. Unlike Visa Cash App, Red Bull, Formula One team.
Have you had yourself some Arby's lately?
Yeah, I like some Arby's.
Do you?
Yeah. A beef and cheddar is pretty good.
Really?
Yeah. You don't eat Arby's?
Okay. No, hell no. No. I had Arby's. Hell no. Keep in mind, I'm from Kansas City, so I'm a barbecue snob. So,
What's roast beef? It's not barbecue.
yeah, no, I went there and got a roast beef sandwich. I admitted this is about 6 years ago, 7
All
years
right.
ago. I haven't eaten there since. But I went to Arby's and I got this. It was like these flat little buns and their sauce was terrible. And honest to God, Grace, it was like steakums. They made the inside of the sandwich is like
Wow.
thin little steakums. It was
I
terrible.
do love steakums. So
Do
maybe
you like
that's-
steakums? Well, maybe
Oh,
that's
yeah.
good for you. See, for me, as a barbecue
That's-
snob from Kansas City, it was like, oh, hell no, this is not. No.
Again, it's not barbecue. It's roast beef. I don't. But
Yeah.
Arby's. That's like saying I wanted a hamburger and then went to McDonald's and I was disappointed. Right? You got to manage your expectations. It is fast food roast beef here, buddy. Right?
Yeah,
like
I know.
And I don't put any of their sauce on it. I go home and put my own horseradish on it because their horsey sauce is just mayonnaise, basically. Right?
Yeah.
So
But I could
Yeah.
go to Jersey Mike's and get a better roast beef than that.
yeah, I know. But again, like McDonald's, it's because it is a distinct place in my childhood heart.
And people always say, oh, McDonald's, they got the McRib coming back. Have you had
No,
the
that's
McRib?
disgusting.
It's like,
Nobody should
oh,
eat
hell
that.
to the no.
Who eats a
No.
McRib?
Who
That
eats a
doesn't even look
McRib?
right.
No, don't do that. Do you do you want to live?
We want to hear in the comments. We would like to hear if you are a McRib eater. I don't.
Yeah.
Mm-mm. It doesn't even look right.
And I'm going to tell you right now, they ruined the Shamrock Shake. That is not the Shamrock Shake of my youth.
No, that is 100% true.
That thing
is-
is a hot dumpster fire mess now.
It is an abomination.
It
I
is
agree
an
with you 100%.
abomination.
Yeah.
Yes. Kids, don't go get that Shamrock Shake March 17th or whatever, because
No.
that thing
Okay.
is like, I don't know, it's like swallowing like cold stuff with pure mint extract or something. It is terrible. That thing was never mint. It wasn't mint when I was a kid. It was
No.
just green.
Okay. So back in my youth, back in high school,
When we were Utes.
when we were Utes, living in our yurts,
Yeah.
yes, And I'm in the drive-through lane because all my mom wants is a Shamrock Shake, right? And it is St. Patrick's Day, so all right, this sounds fine. We'll go get Mom. You want to get some Shamrock Shakes? Let's do it.
Yeah.
We go through a line.
I know your maiden name. That comports.
The lady goes, "We don't have any." Well, what do you mean at St. Patrick's Day you don't have any? Well, the calendar. They only have a certain shake for 30 days or whatever, 28 days. So it doesn't line up with St. Patrick's Day. What? I have never seen my mother as sad as that moment going through the drive-thru, because now we're like in the drive-thru committed, and the lady's like, "Do you want anything else?" And my mom's like, No.
What else is there to life?
Like the saddest moment that involved like human dying, right? Like, I mean, the saddest, like, you know,
gosh, that's terrible.
It was terrible. And she's like, but it's St. Patrick's Day. And then she's like, I know. And I'm sure we were like the 800th person, right? That's come through the line to get the Shamrock Shake. But she's like, right, the calendar, you know, the shakes are on the calendar for 28 days. And so it doesn't always line up with St. Patrick's Day. So just
what
be
kind
warned.
of Stygian hell is that?
I don't know.
That is so weird.
Maybe they've rectified it. I mean, when was the last time I went for a Shamrock Shake? But
I don't know. I thought you were heading down the road, because if I go to McDonald's at 7:30 or 8 o'clock again, and they tell me the ice cream maker's broke, it's
always broke. I don't think they work. Whatever.
Yeah, don't give me that. It's a pain in the butt to clean, and you tore them down at 6:30. I know what you're doing. Just stop it.
I also had a friend who worked at Dairy Queen.
Yeah.
And so he would, you know, so you'd always go and you'd get stuff, and he'd be, you know, like you'd give him money and he would just make you change and give you money back, but it was the same amount of money, but it looked like there was a transaction, right? And because Dairy Queen doesn't do inventory, I don't know if they've caught on to that, but so there's no accounting for how much ice cream you sold versus what you know, you could never square up your cash register, right? So you'd give him a 20 and he'd give you, you know, a whole bunch of whatever change, as long as you didn't order the banana split, because he hated making them. And Buster, what is it? The Buster Parfait. He's like, I refuse. If you come here and you give me a 20, I'm taking the whole 20 and making you that Buster Parfait, because those things are terrible.
So maybe this is indicative of where I live. But you know, Dairy Queen has those ice cream cakes, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now I like those ice cream cakes.
Yeah.
I will admit. Okay, and my girls growing up always loved them, so they always wanted that for the birthday, right? So you can go up and they'll, you know, put a slogan on it or whatever, you know, say "Better luck next year, Lewis," or whatever you want, right? And
sorry you lost your manager, Joe.
Best wishes, Gunther. Thanks for everything, Gunther. So anyway, this Dairy Queen over by our house, it didn't matter whatever holiday it was, they would put on the marquee, be sure, you know, to get your Halloween ice cream cake.
Right.
Be sure to get your birthday ice cream cake for the one you love. Be sure to get your Christmas ice cream cake. What? Be sure to get your 4th of July ice cream cake. And then it was like, be sure to get your celebrating your divorce ice cream cake. Be sure to get your, you know, stillborn ice cream cake. I mean, it was like for everything.
Yeah.
It was crazy. Man, you talk about trying to hustle some ice cream cakes.
They had to compete with Carvel, man. They got... I don't know. I think the only reason Flip ever has people over for his birthday is so that he can have a Baskin Robbins ice cream cake. So
okay. Yeah.
He loves an ice cream cake.
Well, you know, a man's got to have a mission.
I know, but we're just two people. What are we going to do with the whole ice cream cake? I'm like, we're going to have people over. What else are we going to do?
I've got faith in Flip. I think given time, he'll wrestle it to the ground.
I was going to say, that's not a challenge. I'm sure that we could eat a whole ice cream cake. I guess I should rephrase that.
Yeah, okay.
We could, but we perhaps should not.
Oh, yeah. Well, that could be argued. I just had
You're
faith
right.
in you.
We probably, you're right.
Yeah.
If push came to shove, we would eat the whole thing.
Right.
That's the problem.
You've got V-Carb back here in the new Visa Cash App. Yeah, all right. And get this, Grace, good news. Hold on, let me get some, do I have some applause? Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, I am happy to tell you that longtime Renault employee Alan Permain has been hired by Visa Cash App Red Bull Formula One team, VCARB. So Alan Permain has now found himself a home at VCARB, along with, you'll know that last year it was announced that Laurent Mekies is leaving Ferrari, and he's the new Franz Tost. So he's the new team boss. And you remember just before a little bit before the end of the year, Tim Goss announced he was leaving the FIA, just out of nowhere. And I was like, whoa, Tim Goss is leaving the FIA. Yep. He's over at VCARB as well. So lots of things going on over at Red Bull's sister team. Watch this space. I got to be honest with you. Almost all of the social media I saw on this new name was ratioed to hell. I don't think it's
the name they're going to stick with.
Yeah, it was not good.
They're gonna unveil the car and be like, just kidding. That's not our name.
They don't. Visa Red Bull, Visa Cash App Red Bull.
I don't know. Just be.
Is it Visa Cash Cow?
Visa. Just be Visa.
Visa Cash Cow Red Bull. Because that's the way Zach views it. It's basically a cash cow for Red Bull. They get a second, cost cap to work with it. Yeah.
Because the cash cow, maybe that's a catchy name too.
Cash cow. I may call him Cash Cow. Although VCARB is quick, easy.
I like VCARB. I think that's. Yeah. I did also like just calling them Minardi. I don't know what they are anymore. We're just going to go back to the start.
Go back to the start. Toro Rosso. That's it. Yeah. Hey, you found an interesting article over at The Athletic. You and or significant other did, Flip did, over there.
My research staff / team principal / husband.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm going to let you present it because it's about one of your favorite all-time drivers.
Oh, I know the love. Anyway, long story short, Michael Andretti, with a lot of help from General Motors, is working on a car. So
has a scale model car.
Yeah, has a wind tunnel. Right. This isn't Peter Windsor, right? Like he has a car, not just a nose cone and a
toaster.
Right. Like a whole car in a wind tunnel in a factory, and they're building stuff, and they got lots of people helping them. And I mean, I get it that like for General Motors, it's probably not a lot of their people, but those people were doing something. So even if you have 100 employees and you say, okay, 10 of you are going to go help out Andretti. Well, those 10 people were doing something. You weren't, employee hoarding.
They were probably making reliable cars over at GM, and now look what happened.
Right. And now they're helping Andretti. So yeah, go give it. It was a very interesting read at The Athletic that I thought, oh, and I think it's interesting because to me, maybe I'd buy that Michael Andretti, if he had the funds, would do this, even though technically he hasn't been allowed into the sport yet. But he had to convince General Motors to do it too. So to me, that also leads that this isn't that 11th entry isn't that far off, right? Like somebody's promised him something that he's been able to carry to General Motors, that this is really going to happen in 26. So.
Yeah, and Toto wonders, well, what's he going to bring to the game? Well, he just went and convinced General Motors to build a car without an okay from the F1 people. Yeah. Yeah. He's a good salesperson, if anything else.
Well, yeah, but I just think there's a lot of people that have gone there. And Ben Silliam must be greasing the wheels there because Andretti certainly is moving forward as if he's going to be in the sport in 26.
Isn't he just? I applaud it. I think it's great.
I do too. I mean, I don't like Michael Andretti. I think that's well established, but I do like this. Like, I like that I do love sticking a dagger in somebody. Like, this is great that you're just like, oh, it's all right. We're just going to keep working because you're going to let us in anyway.
Right. Right. Yeah, we're going to get in anyway. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, right? They don't have final approval, but and I just like that, like, every hoop they throw at them, they're like, all right, you want us to fill out an 800-page application? Here it is.
Here it is.
You want proof of concept? Here it is. You want backing? Here it is. Like, how many hoops are they going to make them jump through before they just go, fine?
You want firstborn? Here's Marco.
Yeah.
So there you go. All right. Let's get in to some Albin's Cats. that
I'm
soundbite.
dying here. I don't know
I'm
why
gonna
that's
play
so
it to
funny.
death. Everybody goes, "Oh, your sound bites are getting old. Stop playing them to death."
Listen,
I
people, we
know.
do this for our own amusement.
We do.
That clip is hilarious.
We totally do. We do all of this.
Yes, I can hear you, Clem Fandango.
for our own amusement. See, I
That's
think
right.
I find that hilarious, but it's in context, right?
It is in context. I also, it's the Jensen button. I don't know.
Right.
Why don't you tell me? Favorite
Yeah,
classic.
it's one
So
of my all-time favorites too.
it's great stuff.
So, Albans Cots, what do you got for us, Grace?
Okay, so shout out to our friends over at the race, and they do a podcast. They do
Did you get
MotoGP
Mitchell mommed?
No, because it was their MotoGP podcast.
Oh, okay.
He doesn't do their MotoGP podcast.
Yeah, whew.
It would be Simon and Val
Got it.
and Matt. So anyway, so they are doing the bike launches just like the car launches, right? They haven't really started here in Formula One yet, but they've already started in MotoGP. So Ducati had their 3 bike launches, right next to each other in Italy. And so I'm just like listening and, okay, this is interesting because now, especially with all the aero, they have the same problems that Formula One does, is that like the car you see now is not the car you're going to see at testing, and it's not the car you're going to see at race number 1 because all these things are going to change and nobody wants to tip their hand quite yet. So in many ways, the bike looks familiar because it's still last year's bike, right? So they're talking about, Simon Patterson's talking about all these things he's doing at Original Recipe Ducati. And he mentions that it's because Pecco Bagnaia growing up was a big fan of Vroom and was like, why don't we do that anymore? And I was so excited that
that's
we
awesome.
talk about Vroom, what is now like a 10-year-old event. We talk about that all the time because back in the day when you only had 14 races, the off season was so long and you were just like, please be Vroom. Please be
I know.
Vroom, because at least we'll get some pictures and we
Yeah.
can mock Bernie Eccleston on a sled.
Yeah.
And, we'd have some content to talk about. And so I was so excited that Pecco Bagnaia convinced Ducati to have a Vroom-like event for them again, just because that's what he expected. And that's what, when he thinks of Ducati, that's what he thinks of as
That's
those events from his
awesome.
childhood. So I was just like super excited that when I was in the car listening, when I got home and I was like, and Flip had listened to it and had not mentioned that. And he was like, oh, you're right. I forgot Vroom. I was like, how could you forget something like that? So
Yeah.
I get it. Maybe Pecco Bagnaia isn't everybody's like cup of tea when it comes to world champions, but the guy can wrap a Christmas present and he brought back the closest thing to Vroom that we've seen in
That's
10
awesome.
years. So shout out to Pecco Bagnaia. Good job.
See, Ferrari and Ducati used to do that,
Yeah,
and
together.
And so Ferrari next year should jump on board.
I think so. And then go back to they went to some random ski slopes in the Alps, just like the old days. And
Yeah.
I just was like,
perfect.
this is also, did you know that Audi owned Ducati?
Yes, I did know that.
I feel like I was
Yes.
the only, I did not, I may have known that somewhere in the recesses of my brain. But anyway,
Yeah.
because that was one of the things that they got to do was like drive around Audis on ice tracks because Audi owns Ducati. And I'm like, well, maybe, in 26, maybe we'll have Audi and Ducati do Vroom and it'll be a Formula One. And instead of being the Italian Ferrari Ducati thing.
Right. It could be Audi and Ducati. That would make even more sense.
So get on that, Seidel.
I like
We
it.
would like to see that happen.
I like it. It's good. It's good.
All right.
It's good. Let's see. Do you want a couple of no shit headlines that I found?
Always.
Okay.
Always.
This first one. Axed Red Bull prodigy hits out at unfair helmet Marco ahead of switch to F1 rivals.
Goodbye, good luck, and good riddance.
That's basically what Jack Crawford said. He said that he was just brutally blunt to the point of just being offensive at times, but he appreciated he was just so blunt and straightforward. But he said it got pretty rough at times. Now, the rumor is that he could be joining Aston Martin's young driver program. We'll see. But anyway, that was young Jack Crawford with that quote.
All right. I mean, because really that could have been like half the grid
It could have.
of current Formula One drivers, let alone anybody that's a reserve driver or in the academies. Right?
A quarter of the current Formula One drivers came through a Red Bull program.
I mean, would you be
quarter.
surprised if that was Pierre Gasly that said that or
No.
Alex?
Carlos? No.
It could be anybody.
No. And I'm not talking about Jaime Alguersuari or Buemi or Antonio Liuzzi or any of those guys. Today's grid, a quarter of them all came through Red Bull's program.
That's right.
Let's see. And the last one is, quote, my dad is an F1 legend. Now I'm the sport's most famous wag, modeling for Vogue and selling my own makeup range. Now, this is one
like
thing that the British tabloids do that you just don't see over here in the States. They write headlines like this, where it sounds like it's like the actual person they're talking about is what they said, but it's not what they said. It's a caricature headline of them.
It feels like, wasn't this like a game from the 80s or something? Like, my dad is an F1 legend, and I don't even know what a WAG is. I know the most famous WAG.
Wives and girlfriends.
Thank
it does.
you.
My dad is an F1 legend. Now I'm the sport's most famous WAG, modeling for Vogue and selling my own makeup. What is Kelly Piquet? What is Kelly Piquet? Yes, Kelly Piquet. Yes. So there you go. To me, I don't know, maybe that's totally acceptable in the UK. To me, I would be offensive because the whole, my dad is an F1 legend. Now I'm the sports, that's first person, right?
Yeah.
And
it makes it sound like this is a quote from Kelly.
It makes it sound like it's a quote from Kelly. And of course it wasn't a quote from her. And it makes it sound like it was. And if I was them, I'd have the lawyer, retract that headline because I don't see how they get away with that.
And is she the most famous WAG? I don't think that's true.
I think maybe she probably estimated makes the most per social media post that she does. Like 2,500 pounds per post that she does. I think that's the chart that they had. I don't know. Yeah, honestly, I don't follow any of that. I mean, I know who some of the drivers' girlfriends are.
I'm going to go back
some
to,
of their
well,
wives,
I mean, if they're, like I know like Alex and Lily because they do posts together and she's an athlete normally, right? Like her, So sometimes you know who they are, but it's because they also have a presence. But I don't know. Like I only knew who Charles Leclerc was dating Charlotte because he locked her outside. Like that was such a funny story that I could relate to, right? Like, but they're broken up now. So, but I have no idea. It's only because of that story that I even know what her name is. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, there you go. Well, Kelly's Max's girlfriend.
I did once, not that long ago, learn that Max Biaggi from from MotoGP dated Naomi Campbell. I was just like, wow, there's an insight to some relationship I would like somebody to write a book about.
How about that?
Hadn't known.
Well, that's interesting.
I don't know. I again, random factoids that you find out in the world.
I just don't follow. It's not that I don't care or that
it's not.
it's just, I don't really follow. I know there's a photographer that, takes a lot of pictures of the women of F1 or whatever. And, they're all great pics and stuff. It just, I don't flip through all those, looking at all the girlfriends and stuff. It's just not, I don't know. That's kind of their life. I don't really have an interest in that. It's just not a thing that appeals to me and hasn't for years. All the remember the Jordan girls with the butt floss and the, all that stuff. I go to the races in Austin or whatever, and you see all the good girls and stuff. And I don't know. I guess my head is just there and so into the racing of it that I'm not really focusing on anything else like girlfriends and stuff. I don't know. I'm more interested in seeing the car and the brake ducts than I am see who's dating who, but that's just me. What do I know, Grace?
I don't know. I really have no idea what you know. I don't really know what I know, but I mean, clearly I don't even know what a WAG is. So what do I know? But
I do see the social media posts, and some of those are fun. Like you said, I saw, I don't know her name, but the Swede, I think he got married. I think he did. Scott Dixon's wife was a hoot. There's a few of them out there that have a lot of funny social media stuff and, have a good time with the driver or whatever. And it's a part of their life. And I get it. It's a part of the driver's life that you get to see via their girlfriend or their wife or whatever, and that you don't normally get to see. And, who doesn't like to, peek into Fernando's life or vacation? Well, that's fun.
Well, or even like in my not famous friends, I have a friend who he doesn't really post on social media at all, but his wife does all the time. So then it's funny because you'll be like, "Hey, Todd, I just saw your new kitchen," and we'll be like, "Why do you know about my new kitchen?"
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Because your wife posted it, and I saw that, and it was funny, And he's like,
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
So
It's
that
like
I enjoy.
we wouldn't know anything about Kimi if it wasn't for his wife, right?
No, right.
Yeah.
We still only know him as hugging a dolphin in a gutter somewhere.
Right. So I get it why, people do follow wives and girlfriends and stuff. And I understand it's just not something I'm that interested in. All right. That does it for this podcast, Grace. What time do we have? How long has this podcast been?
Longer than you ever want it to be, really.
It is. It is longer than I was shooting for. All right. Well,
but we were having a good time.
We were having a good time, damn it.
Take 2 commutes this week, people.
That's right. We're having a great time on this podcast.
You'd like to think that, wouldn't you?
Yes. All right. Hey, in the meantime, a huge thank you to our Patreon supporters because we could not and would not do it without you. And thanks for the new donations over the holidays and this past week or two. Appreciate that. We couldn't do this and wouldn't do this podcast without you. So thank you so much for doing that. Next week, I took a couple. Yeah. I was
trying to make it do the hard.
Just do the hard thing?
It does, but anyway, go ahead.
I took a week off from the I didn't send the link out, and I should have for the audience side of this. And so my apologies. That's totally my bad. I know there's a few of you in the chat right now, which is great fun, and it's awesome. My apologies for not having I was trying to read my notes, and my apologies to all of the folks in our chat right now. But I will go through and answer you guys. But anyway, it's great having our Patreon supporters because we send out a link that you can join these podcasts and watch live as we're going through. And normally I try to catch a few questions when they come in. And so I was feverishly trying to keep my camera working and other things here. So apologies, I didn't see that. My bad, folks. Next week, I promise I'll do better. So plan on joining next week. If you're a Patreon supporter, you can go to our Patreon page. You'll see a post there that has a link that you can join as a guest to our podcast and watch live and interact with us live as we record. So it's great fun. We love the questions and we love having you part of the podcast as well. So huge thank you to our Patreon supporters. If you like the podcast, you can go to our website. You can go to iTunes, give us a good rating over there, or your favorite podcast player. You could tell a friend about it. You could share it, right? If you really like this podcast, you go to our website and you can buy merchandise like Grace is wearing. Right? You could buy Park for May merch. You could do that at our website. You could go to our website, which is theparkformay.com. That would be great. Share your opinion on this podcast and others. If you like Arby's, let us know and why.
I'm telling you, beef and cheddar, man. You don't know.
Okay. Well,
all day.
Maybe I'll try it. I don't know. Who knows? But anyway, that does it for this week. We will be back next week. I'll find Grace, and she'll be fresh off at Arby's beef and cheddar, and we'll find some more F1 news to talk about next week. Until that time, this is Todd, aka Negative Camber, saying so long, Grace.
See you next week.
That's it, man. Game over, man. It's game over.
It's not what I feel I've got to prove at all.